These are the best graphics, controller, and audio settings for Modern Warfare 3. It's been a while since I updated my settings, so here you go. And before we get into that, my PC graphics, settings, and audio were optimized by FPS Hub. If you're in the market for a PC optimization, an audio optimization, or a network optimization, they helped me with all of those. So check out the link in the description and use code LUNCH for a discount on those. But let's get into the graphics. Starting out here on display mode, we're going to go with full screen exclusive. The reason we're doing this is so the game can better focus on the game. This will make your input delay better, increase frames, so on and so forth. So make sure you have this on full screen exclusive. Sometimes when I'm streaming and playing on COD, I'll change this to full screen borderless just so I can go back and forth between OBS, chat, and whatnot without having to fully tab out of the game. But the correct answer to this setting is full screen exclusive, so I'll go with that. Make sure your monitor, adapter, and refresh rate match the monitor that you're using, as well as the display resolution and aspect ratio. For the display gamma, we're going with 2.2. My personal brightness is 59, but that is very monitor dependent as well. For the reflex low latency, I go with on plus boost. The general rule of thumb on this one depends if your CPU or your GPU is older or more outdated. If your graphics card is better, do on plus boost. If your CPU is better, just do on. For the rest of these settings, I have the VSync off, and then the custom frame limit. I have on 300 for gameplay, 70 for menu, and then 30 for out of focus. Over here to the menu render resolution, we have this on optimal. Game rendering is off, focus mode 90. My HDR is of course off, and that's it for this tab. We're going to go over to quality now, where the super important stuff happens. Graphics preset is on custom, with 1920 by 1080 being my render resolution. Here with the upscaling and sharpening, we have fidelity cast at a level of 100. I changed this a little bit on my PS5, which we'll go over later. So stay tuned to the end of the video if you are on PS5 and want my PS5 settings. For the path tracing, we have this off. VRAM scale target is 80, while my variable rate shading is off. Over here to details and textures, the texture resolution is very low. The texture filter is low, depth of field off, detail quality level low, particle resolution very low, bullet impacts off, persistent effects off, shader quality low. On-demand texture streaming is of course off. This helps with packet bursts, so make sure this is off. Local texture streaming quality is low. And then going down here to shadow and lighting, we have shadow quality very low. Screen space shadows is off, ambient occlusion is off, screen space reflections is off, and static reflection quality is low. Over here to environment, we have tessellation off, volumetric quality low, deferred physics quality off, weather grid volumes off, and water quality off. And that is it for the quality. These are the main two settings that don't really involve personal preference. These are generally what's going to be best for getting the most frames on your PC or on your build. So over here to view, this is where things become a little bit more opinionated. For me, 105 is the best for field of view. If you bump this up any higher than around 107, you'll start to lose aim assist on controller. However, if you play keyboard and mouse and don't want to worry about that, just keep that up on 120 if that's what you want. But I find the sweet spot as 105. By ADS field of view, I play on affected. Weapon field of view, I play on wide. And then the third person of vehicle doesn't really matter, especially not for multiplayer. Over here to the camera, make sure your motion blur and weapon motion blur are off. Film grain is 0, and then your movement percentage is least for first person and third person movement. Spectator camera, I go game perspective. I don't do the inverted flashbang. And that is it for the graphics. Going over here to audio, I use headphones, default system device, which of course is my Astros. The speaker output I put on stereo, and if you want these settings, they're here. Master game volume I have on 100, gameplay music all the way down, dialogue 20, effects volume 100, and then the rest on 0. Voice chat volume I have on 40, that's personal preference as well. The rest of these I don't think are terribly important. Make sure you have mono audio off, reduce tinnitus sound on. The rest of these kind of personal preference. My hit marker sound effects I do Modern Warfare. One thing I should mention as well for audio, when I play on PS5, I do change this to soundbar. It's mainly because it's way easier to hear footsteps and whatnot on console with this setting. For PC, like I said earlier, I have headphones, and then my audio has been optimized by FPS Hub. And so headphones kind of made it the easiest for that to happen for them. Up next, the interface settings. So we're going to scroll down here to color customization. I play on filter 2 with both, at an intensity of 85 on the world and then 100 on the interface. This will make the game look a little bit better, a little more vibrant, so change these settings here. Up next, the HUD bounds. You want to make this all the way towards the center of your screen as you can, on the top and on the sides. This makes it so that all of your HUD bounds, including the minimap, are closer to the center of the screen. That way you don't have to look all the way to the corner of your screen just to check out your minimap and see where your opponents are. Minimap shape is square and rotation is on. Crosshairs, I play with them on static, with the center dot on, with the center dot scale of larger. This is just personal preference. This is what I like the most and helps me with my centering. Keeping them static as well makes it so that they stay on the center of your screen and there's not too much motion in terms of your crosshairs. For the rest of these settings, they don't really matter too much. There's the telemetry if you want to throw anything up there. And then I believe that's it for interface. And now for controller. I play on default flipped, So my button layout, of course, is default, and then I flip L1 and R1 here. That means I aim with L1 and I shoot with R1. Controller vibration, I have this off. Dead zone inputs I have here. I have my right stick min all the way down to 0. My left stick min to 0/1, and my left stick max is to 70. The reason I have this on 70 is so you reach the max strafe speed even faster, have closer to that keyboard and mouse type of strafe where it's all or nothing. And my right stick min is on 0 because a little bit of stick drift is okay. If there's movement on either your left stick or your right stick, it'll cause you to grab the aim assist a little bit more. So I'm totally fine running around with just a slight amount of stick drift. If I get a little bit of stick drift, the longer I use my controller, I'll start slowly bumping this up. But for now, I'm keeping it on 0. I should mention that the controller as well that I'm using is the SCUF Reflex Iridescent for PS5. I love this controller, and I do have a code with SCUF, so you can use code lunchtime at SCUF, as well as the link in the description, to get yourself a controller like this one. Huge shout out to SCUF, and use code lunchtime. Over here to aiming, I play on 6/6 sensitivity for horizontal and vertical. I don't adjust the sensitivity multiplier at all. I keep it on 1. For the aim response curve type, I play on dynamic with a slope scale of 1. The ADS sensitivity transition timing is instant, and like I said, my custom sensitivity per zoom is off. I don't mess with that at all. Target aim assist on. I play with Black Ops aim assist. You can do this or default. Both of them are great. Over here to motion sensor aiming, make sure you have this off. I go into the advanced settings and turn off the FOV sensitivity scaling. I don't think that matters too much. It might be a placebo, but I keep it off just in case. Scrolling over here to gameplay, I keep auto tac sprint off. However, I do go down here and turn my tactical sprint behavior on single tap run. That makes it so that I only have to click my left stick once to reach tac sprint. For my mantle settings, I have ground and mantle off, automatic airborne off, and then the ground mantle / hang off. I changed these settings when I play Get Higher, but that mode is gone sadly, so these are all off again. And my slide dive behavior is on hybrid. That way I can dive and slide without having any controller delay while doing so. Here are the rest of my gameplay settings. I don't think there are any that are crazy important to talk over. So that will be it there for the controller settings. If you're a PC player, that's it. You can click off the video. I appreciate you being here. But if you're on PS5 or console, stay tuned because we'll go over those settings right now. Here in the PS5 settings, we're to scroll down to System, go to HDMI and make sure that your Enable HDCP is off. Then scroll down to Screen and Video. For my personal preference, I do play on 4K. I have a 4K monitor that gets up to 144 Hertz, so that works perfectly for PS5. If you play on 1080p, that's perfectly fine. You will get a little bit less input delay by playing on 4K because of the way the PS5 works. It first renders the game at 4K, then downscales it to 1080p. So if you're looking to make upgrades in your setup, going up to a 4K monitor might not be a bad idea. VRR I have on automatic. 120 Hertz output I have on automatic. ALLM I have off because my monitor does not support it. And then the rest of the settings here, HDR is off, as well as the HDR settings like deep color output. You then want to go to Saved Data and Game/App settings. Scroll down to Game Presets and make sure that your performance mode or resolution mode is set to performance mode. This will make it easier to get to that 120 Hertz output when you're playing games that support it. Going into the actual game, we're going to go to the graphics settings for the PS5. I have on-demand texture streaming off. Motion blur of the world and the weapon are both off. Film grain is on 0. Depth of field off. Fidelity cast I have on with a strength of 75. On 4K resolution, to get more frames, you do have to turn the fidelity cast down a little bit. If you play on 1080p or 2K, you can maintain 120 Hertz while keeping this up at 100. So bump this up to 100 if you're not on 4K or if you don't notice that much of a difference. Eco mode preset I have off. 120 Hertz refresh rate on, with my FOV at 105, affected and wide. The rest of the settings are here. Make sure your motion or your camera movement is at least. My brightness is at 60. And my safe area, like I said earlier, is as close to the center of the screen as possible to make the minimap as close to the center of the screen as possible. Like I said, my audio, I use soundbar on the PS5, which is different than what I use on PC. So use soundbar if you're on the PS5. You'll thank me later. And then that's the last big setting that changes from PC to PS5. Also, if we go over here to controller and controller settings, first of all, make sure that it's up to date. And then for communication method, technically speaking, on a regular DualSense controller, aka not the DualSense Edge, you'll want to use Bluetooth. The reason is you get a faster refresh rate when using Bluetooth on a regular default controller. However, if you have Bluetooth devices like Apple Watch or a phone or anything that goes through Bluetooth, it could mess with the response time of the controller. We're talking about a difference of about 250 Hertz compared to around 700 Hertz with Bluetooth. However, Bluetooth does fluctuate. So try out Bluetooth. Let me know if you notice a difference. I actually keep on USB cable for my PS5 controller just because I'd rather have a stable connection that's a little bit slower than a variant connection that ends up faster at the higher ranges. So this is personal preference. If you have the DualSense Edge, make sure it's on USB cable because that controller is the exception and it is faster. Other than that, try Bluetooth and then maybe go to USB if you don't notice Bluetooth helping too much. And that'll do it for the entirety of my Model 4 3 settings. I hope this video helped. If it did, let me know with a like or a sub, and I'll catch you next time at lunchtime.